GamingBolt presents 15 great games that start out really slow. Have you ever heard someone tell you that a game is great but after X number of hours? Some titles suffer from this due to a fairly lackluster beginning in comparison to the rest of the game. But there are others that have some good opening hours that simply take a while to pull you in, hook, line, and sinker. Let's take a look at 15 great games that start out slow but become even better as you go along. Spoilers are naturally inbound. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Remember the virtuous mission? Naked Snake was sent in to find Sokolov, a Soviet scientist who developed a powerful weapon, Metal Gear. Unfortunately, thanks to the boss's betrayal, Batty Volgin was able to recapture Sokolov and unleash a nuclear weapon on Russia's populace. All of this sounds cool, but honestly, it was a ton of exposition leading up to the actual Operation Snake Eater. It is to be expected from a Metal Gear Solid title, we suppose. Yakuza 0. If you've never played a single game in Sega's Yakuza series, then Yakuza 0 is definitely the best place to start. However, many of the most appealing aspects of the game, like exploring the open world, its crazy side missions, and the awesome combos and boss battles, they take a while to get into. In the meantime, you're treated to the tale of Kazuma Kiryu and what drives him to beat so many people senseless. SUIKODEN 5. Of the many SUIKODEN titles that test your patience, SUIKODEN 5 is perhaps the most trying. In the beginning, you'll visit some towns, fight some battles, and meet various characters, but you won't actually get your own base and recruit people until, about 15 hours or so in. Don't let that slow start put you off from perhaps the best SUIKODEN title ever. Assassin's Creed 3. Assassin's Creed 3 is infamous for many things, but the first few sequences which see you playing as Haytham Kenway are actually pretty fun. Hilariously, you switch over to his less than compelling son Connor later, but the game doesn't properly begin to open up until you're several sequences in. The jury is somewhat out on whether Assassin's Creed 3 is great, but hey, it's probably better than Unity. Kingdom Hearts 2. Whether you're versed in the events of Kingdom Hearts and Chains of Memories or not, the beginning portion of Kingdom Hearts 2 sees you experiencing an entire week as Roxas. You'll be embarking on adventures with your friends, battle a few nobodies, and eat sea salt ice cream popsicles. Regardless, it takes a few hours before you actually figure out what's going on and finally play as Sora. But still, we had some good memories in Twilight Town, or the simulation of it anyways. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. It may not have been as long as Twilight Princess, but the intro to The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword still took a while to really get players into the game. Excessive hand-holding was also a given, until you were well established in this brave new world. Skyward Sword, considered the low point among 3D Zelda titles, is actually pretty good, but getting to those parts took time all the same. The Last of Us. The opening minutes of The Last of Us are pretty frantic, but it goes from absolute madness and Joel losing Sarah to several years later. The world is in shambles as humans live in fear of the infected. Joel is now a smuggler and keeps Sarah's gift for him as a keepsake. It's not until he meets Ellie that the game really starts rolling, especially with regards to the cross-country trip and the various horrors met along the way. Persona 5. It's crazy to think about the sheer amount of story sequences, interactions, battles, and mechanics that make up Persona 5. The first 10 hours introduces you to all of this, from establishing your character and the setting, to the central themes, your allies, the first palace, and so on and so forth. There's a lot to get through, and the game really expands when you enter other palaces, access mementos, engage more confidants, and so on. Still, it's an entertaining beginning all the same. Okami. This gorgeous cel-shaded art style in Okami helped distract players from the fact that the intro was pretty long. Furthermore, it was unskippable, and you could actually see it again with some slight differences when starting the game. The Wii version would allow players to skip the cutscenes on their first go-around, as opposed to completing the game like the PS2 version required. Half-Life 2. It's amazing to look back and think about how long it took for Half-Life 2 to truly open up. Ask anyone who loves the game and they'll tell you that business truly picks up in Chapter 3. Till then, you'll have various conversations with characters, learn more about the nefarious deeds that the Combine have wrought on Earth, and spend time running before acquiring your first weapon, and subsequently, the gravity gun. Silent Hill 2. Despite the abject critical acclaim, some players found Silent Hill 2 to be slower overall compared to the first game. Even after the first puzzle, it felt like the game didn't really unleash its insanity until Pyramid Head appeared. Unsurprisingly, Pyramid Head had many of the game's best moments. Just keep the slow start in mind when people tell you to try Silent Hill 2 first. The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. As one of the more revered Zelda titles of all time, The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess is a notoriously slow starter. The beginning few hours are essentially setup and tutorials, from learning to fight to fishing. You know, the side activity that's not even required? You won't see the first dungeon until after the first 5 hours. Deadly Premonition. Deadly Premonition was lauded for its outrageous Twin Peaks-like story. Greenvale becomes very compelling once you begin to explore it. However, to get to that point, you need to stomach some clunky combat, which is the norm throughout the game, but the beginning is always a downer, and some typical objectives in the first few hours. Still, it may be worth your while when all is said and done. Spec Ops: The Line. Spec Ops: The Line is pretty darn generic in the beginning hours. The cover-based shooting wasn't as intuitive as, say, the Gears of War series, and honestly, the overall objectives were your standard military shooter bunk. Go here, shoot this, repeat. However, by establishing all of these typical tropes and fooling you into a false sense of security, Spec Ops: The Line can truly begin to descend into madness later. White phosphorus. That's all. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt requires you to get past White Orchard, the starting zone where you'll complete small side quests, hunt a few monsters, and pick up clues about Ciri and Yennefer. At that point, you don't even know that much about Ciri or how important she is until later. Honestly, things only pick up once you reach No Man's Land and Velen, so basically, you need to get used to the combat, mechanics, and some fairly routine quests for a few hours. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.